Hey everyone, it's Jenny and welcome back to another episode of #EpicBookRecs. So this is the monthly series that I do here on the Epic Reads channel where I recommend a bunch of books based on a certain theme. So we've done a bunch of fun and exciting themes before, so you should definitely check out the link in the description to the whole playlist where you can find all of the videos. But for today's video, I thought it would be fun to recommend badass girls in YA. So a bunch of books with really awesome main characters who are girls who are just like killing it and doing fantastic, and I think who really grow over the course of the books and really come into their own, confidence and power. I really love each one of these books and really enjoyed them overall, but I think what really took the cake for me was how strong and inspiring the main characters were. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the list. So the first book that I have here is one that I've recommended a bunch of times, and that is Serpent Dub by Shelby Mahurin. I think anyone can agree that Lou, one of the main characters in this book, is just such a inspiring and strong character who is just so confident in herself, which I found just so endearing, and like you really wanted to root for her. Her full name is Louise LeBlanc, and she's actually a witch, and 2 years ago she actually fled her coven and went to the city of Caesarin, forsaking all of her magic and trying to pretend to be a regular human so that she wouldn't get caught by her witchy family. But the book sort of starts out when Lou meets our other main character, Reed Diggory, who is a witch hunter for the church. And it ends up being sort of this war between witches and the church, and him hunting her, and then the two of them ending up in a marriage of convenience, and it's this whole situation. But I absolutely loved it, and I loved Lou as a character because one, she's hilarious, and two, because she's just so confident in who she is and just really goes forth with gumption and with a single-mindedness to get what she wants, which I loved. Overall, it's a really great book, and if you're looking for a fantasy to pick up, this is definitely the one. All right, the next book is a new favorite of mine, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and that book is Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson, and this is basically a sci-fi that feels a bit like a fantasy. So it follows our main character, Andra, who is a 22nd century teen who goes into cryonic sleep along with the rest of her family and friends and people in her city, and they are told that they're going to go to sleep and that they're going to wake up in 100 years on a new planet called Hollymuth, I think, and sort of continue humanity's legacy on a different planet because Earth is sort of dying a bit. But instead what happens is that Andra wakes up on this new planet not knowing where she is, and she's actually woken up in the year 3102, so 1,000 years later than she was originally supposed to wake up. And all the people around her speak very differently, have a lot of different customs and ways of living, and they all think that she is some sort of goddess. And so it's this really weird situation where she is a person out of time, and humanity has sort of evolved into this strange thing that is barely recognizable. But one of the things that I really loved about this book was, of course, Andra as a character. She's really unsure of herself at the beginning and really wants to figure out what's happened to her family and why she's the only one who woke up 1,000 years late. And I think that she was just really endearing in a lot of ways. I connected to her a lot, and she is a character that I find very relatable. Even though she's in this crazy situation, she feels like a teen from our regular day. This book also has some really interesting and amazing plot twists, so I highly recommend for that reason as well. And the things that you learn about Andra as well are just super, super interesting. All right, the next book is one of my all-time favorite books ever. I read this in 2020, I think, and absolutely loved it. And that book is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. So this is the first book in a whole series of books that are hopefully coming out soon. But this follows her main character, Bree, whose mother has actually recently died, and she was just about to go off to this pre-college prep program at this university, and she's just sort of reeling from the grief of losing her mother and ends up getting involved in this secret society at the school called Legendborn. And what she starts to learn is that the secrets and things that the Legendborn do seem to be somehow connected to her mother's death. And as she gets deeper into it, she finds out that the Legendborn are the secret society of sort of, monster hunters, kind of like the shadow hunters, who believe that the legend of King Arthur is real and that he was a real person and that all the Knights of the Round Table were real and that they were staving off this demonic invasion and trying to keep the world safe. And overall, it was just super, super interesting. And I think Bree as a character was just so great because she is not only confronting her grief about her mother, but also diving into her history and her heritage. And that was one of the most compelling parts about the book, I think. And she meets other characters who seem to know a lot more about her than she knows herself. and I just loved seeing how she sort of connects her lineage and what's happened to her ancestors to her present day, and it was just super, super interesting. I think Brie herself is just a like really great and strong character. She's going through so much, but she gets through it with so much heart, and by the end I was just rooting for her so much, and I wanted just the best for her because she's just an endearing character. This book also has a really great like sort of love triangle romance going on, and I absolutely loved it for that reason, and I'm really curious to see where it's gonna go in the next books. So yeah, I highly recommend this one if you are like into the Shadowhunters Cassandra Clare books. This is a great one to pick up. All right, next we're getting into the badass heroines who are a little bit on the stabby, murdery side, which we always love. And the first of those books is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. So this book is super fun. It is set in the 1920s in Shanghai, and it is a bit of a Romeo and Juliet retelling. It follows our main characters Roma and Juliet, and they're both the heirs of these two different gangs in Shanghai. So Roma is the heir to the Russian gang called the White Flowers, and then Juliet is the heir to the Scarlet Gang, which is the Chinese Shanghai gang. And so these two actually had a romance back in the day, but were ripped apart for uncertain reasons, and now they sort of hate each other. But one of the things that I absolutely loved about this book was Juliet's character, because she is sort of like a cutthroat, badass main character. She really has a lot of rage inside her because she thinks that Roma has betrayed her and done a lot of wrong to her, and so she's a bit ruthless with Roma and with others as well, but she's also used that ruthlessness to, you know, keep people who think that she can't do anything because of her gender from, you know, thinking that way. And I absolutely love this book. It's got a fantastic mystery as well, because there is this mysterious plague sort of running around Shanghai, and it seems to be caused by some sort of monster, and so Roma and Juliet do have to sort of work together to figure out what's going on, and it was just a fantastic book. All right, the next book is one that I've recommended a bunch of times before because it's a, rightfully so, very popular series, and that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, so the Folk of the Air series. And one of the main reasons why I love this series is because of the main character, Jude. But for those of you who don't know, this book is set in the real world, but involves the world of fairy, and our main character, Jude, and her sisters were kidnapped as young children, and their parents were murdered by a fairy, and they were taken to the world of fairy to be raised there by their new, like, surrogate father or stepfather. And they have grown up as humans in this world of fairy, being tricked and, you know, used in many different ways. And all Jude has ever really wanted was to have more power and to not be played by all these fairies. And so there's a bit of an enemies to lovers romance in this one as well, which was super, super fun. But I think Jude as a character overall was just so, like, compelling. She is a cutthroat character. She will do anything to sort of get what she wants, and she is a bit of a conniving character as well, but I just loved following her. I think it was just so interesting to see what she would do next and how she would be betrayed next as well, because there's a lot of betrayals. But I think you just really feel for her as well because you want her to succeed and actually get that power that she wants. So yeah, if you're into like a really awesome, you know, resourceful main characters, she's definitely the one for you. And if you're into like a enemies to lovers romance, this one is also the book for you. All right, the final book that I want to talk about is one that I actually haven't read yet, but I'm really excited to, and it feels like it's gonna have a really badass heroine, and that is Iron Widow by Sharon J. Zhao. And this one is basically a sci-fi that's sort of based off of some Chinese history as well, but it is set in this world where these young girls are taken to be these concubine pilots, and they are used to drive these mecha robots that are used to fight off these aliens who are attacking the Great Wall. And these concubine pilots are paired up with a male counterpart who like mans this mecha robot, and they basically have to like draw on the girl's energy to power the robot. And so a lot of these girls end up like dying in service, but it's like considered this great honor. And so our main character, Zetien's sister, actually gets taken as one of these concubine pilots and dies. And so Zetien is determined to avenge her sister and ends up becoming one of these concubine pilots, but actually kills her own like male counterpart instead, and is named something called the Iron Widow for what she has done, and everyone starts to sort of fear her. And so she becomes like this powerful figure, and she is paired with one of the most powerful male pilots, and the two of them are forced to figure out a way to keep away this like looming threat of these aliens across the Great Wall. But she is also determined to free these girls who have become these concubine pilots and find a way to save them and figure out why this technology feeds on the pain of women. And I am super excited to read this book. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I'm just so interested by the concept and the world. And I am also just excited for the main character, Zetien, because she seems like she's going to be a badass heroine, and also one who is just determined to get what she wants, which I love. So yeah, super excited for this one and cannot wait to pick it up. All right, but those are all of the books that I have on this list of badass girls in YA. You should definitely go check out each of these books. All of them are fantastic and some of my favorite reads as well. And I think I always gravitate towards main characters who may not start out strong, but always learn to find that confidence and self-esteem and, you know, power within themselves and conquer, you know, whatever they're doing in the book by the end. So yeah, absolutely love all of these girls and you should definitely go check them out. And thank you guys so much for watching. And definitely let me know in the comments down below what books in YA have some badass girls that you love and that you really wanted to root for. I would love to hear what your recommendations are. If you want more recommendations like this, definitely check out my channel, This Story Ain't Over. And I will see you guys in the next episode of #EpicBookRecs. Bye!